I can't think of anybody better to actually launch Journalism Week than Harry, because he is genuinely the professional's professional. He's the sort of person that if you want to be a journalist, you should be aspiring to be in the future. His services to broadcasting has already won him the MBE, and a couple of weeks ago, the Royal Television Society Journalism Awards in London awarded him the award for the best regional presenter in the country. He's equally comfortable on a regional stage, a national stage, an international stage, covering news, covering sport. He's covered some of the major sports events in the world. Working in radio, working in television. He's exactly what a modern journalist should be. So listen, learn, and please welcome Harry Gration.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks a lot, Mike. It's almost as if I write my own introductions as well, isn't it, Mike? Which I don't, to hasten to add. Look, it's an honour to be here. I've been around a few years now, and what happened a couple of weeks ago was an incredible honour for me, because I went down thinking I'm just making up the numbers, but to win that award was a very emotional time for me as well. I am a bit emotional. I do tend to get a bit emotional. When I got my MBE and I was interviewed on Look North, I started to cry like Dickie Bird. How pathetic is that? But it meant quite a lot to me. Let me just tell you a story about the MBE, because I think it sums up my family as well. I was lucky enough to take, I've got twin boys who are 11 now. I was lucky enough to take them down to the palace. And my wife was there as well. And we went into this big room, probably 3 times the size of this room. And you were given a very strict brief as to what you should do and what you should say and how you should act and so on. And one of the key features was that you had to bow once you'd received your MBE. And my son, Harvey, was absolutely terrified that I would forget to do this. So what happened was they were on a kind of raised dais, and just as I came into the hall, there was a complete silence, and my son whispered, but everybody heard, "Don't forget to bow, Daddy." To which everybody in the room stopped, and Prince Charles, who gave me the MBE, said, "Well, I suppose you'd better bow, Harry, hadn't you?" So I did, and I mean, we'll go like this, not in donkeys, but that was a moment to savour was that. I've had an incredible year, a remarkable year, and one which I don't really understand why it's happened. I suppose I'm coming towards the end of my career in one sense. I'm 65 next, and yet there's a bit of life still left in the old dog, I think, just to be fair. But when I look at this year in particular, I think it's been incredible. I went to Afghanistan, a story about that as well. Here's a bit of advice for you when you're going home to your loved one and trying to justify where you've been sent. I'll tell you what happened with this one. I was in America on holiday last summer, and I knew I was going to Afghanistan because it was the pull-out from Camp Bastion. I hadn't told my wife, and I thought I'm in trouble here because she needs to be told I'm going to be away for a while. So I got my mobile phone out and said, "You wouldn't believe it, darling, would you? You wouldn't believe it. The BBC have asked me to go to Afghanistan. Can you believe that?" She said, "I know you too well, Harry. I know you've volunteered for it." And that was the case. But what an experience that was. Unbelievable experience to be there with the troops as they pulled out from Camp Bastion. I can't tell you the excitement that I felt about it. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do that, and this is an element of broadcasting that all of you will have to be able to assimilate at some point, is you have to be able to do the soft news and the hard news equally well. Otherwise you don't survive. I went to, I don't know, a dozen repatriations. Basically, some of our boys and girls coming back from Afghanistan in coffins. Horrendous story to have to do. And I never really appreciated what it was like for them in Camp Bastion in Afghanistan. That's why I wanted to go before it was too late. It was edgy. The whole thing was an edgy experience. I can remember going in thinking, oh, this is safe, there's not much going on at the moment. How wrong I was. We went in on the plane with, I don't know, 250 troops on board, and we were told about an hour out to put our body armour on. And I wasn't expecting that. I don't know, I just thought the body armour was there just for a bit of cosmetic relief, really. But we were told to put our body armour on, and I looked at the guy next to me, who was a lieutenant colonel, and I said, is it usual to put the body armour on? He said, no, we normally only put the body armour on when you actually get off the plane, because that's the part where you are possibly exposed. But to put it on 1 hour out on the plane was a little bit unusual. And he said, to even make it even more interesting, I'll show you why it's unusual. Just look to your right, through the window, and there was a jet on the right wing. Look to your left, there was a jet on the left wing as well. So there was clearly something potentially going on. Then I began to realise the colour of adrenaline, because you would get a bit edgy there. You do get a bit edgy, but it was such a great experience. And we went to cover the work of the field hospital, which did incredible work. This is a statistic which I didn't appreciate, but they say that no matter what the injury is suffered by a soldier, whether they've had limbs blown off or whatever, if they've got a pulse, by the time they get to the field hospital, they will survive. That's how good they were. It was an incredible experience, and one which will live long in my memory. So that was a highlight of my career. A highlight of my career towards the end of it as well. So I think the point I'm trying to make is this. If you don't ask to do stories when they pop up, you won't get them. You've got to persist, as I did there. I've been asking for 6-7 years to go to Afghanistan, and I got it right at the very end. So that's the first element that I would like to say to you. Be as persistent as you possibly can. But there are other sides to Look North, and I want to show you just a few clips, if I may, just to try and break this up, just to show you that regional television is about hard news, principally, yes, but it's also about doing lighter stories as well. So let me just show you, and I hope this technology works, please. One of the, basically I had to put in about 6 or 7 submissions for the Royal Television Society Award, and this was one of them that we put in about the tandem tour of Yorkshire. Good evening and welcome to Look North, and have we got a special programme for you tonight?
The weekend, the Tour de France became the Tour de Yorkshire. 2.5 million people lined the route, showcasing the region's towns, cities and countryside. It's been labelled the grandest opening ever.
The Tour de France is very, very, very popular. But what we lived yesterday and today, it's just unbelievable, incredible, amazing, astonishing.
In the next 40 minutes, we'll show you how Yorkshire, or should I say Yorkshire, welcomed the Tour. From the crowds on the streets and the campers on Home Moss, we'll bring you dramatic action and the view from the sky.
Well, this is Buttertubs Pass, one of the most inaccessible parts of the route, yet just look at the crowds. I can honestly say I've never been prouder of living in Yorkshire.
Well, one person who's had a big part to play in bringing the Tour to Yorkshire was, of course, Gary Verity of Welcome to Yorkshire. And I caught up with Gary and also Christian Prudhomme, the General Director of the Tour de France, after the ending of the second stage in Sheffield today, which was a magical experience. So one question, did we, Yorkshire, do them proud?
I always knew it would be big. I always knew it would be huge. I kind of hoped we'd get the weather that we wanted, but I never knew that we'd be as blessed as we have been, and I never expected, even in my wildest expectations, that we'd get the millions and millions of people that we have over the last 2 days. And Christian Prudhomme has said to me, this is definitely now the grandest ever Grand Depart that they've ever had in the 111 years of the Tour de France. Bernardino said to me he's never seen crowds like this even in France. So they're blown away by it, and I'm just a bit stunned by it, and tonight I'm emotionally drained.
Yeah, I must admit, the emotion really hit me as well. I was in Addingham yesterday, there were thousands there. Here, you know, when they came past, I'm sorry that Chris Froome wasn't ahead, but it doesn't really matter that. I was quite choked.
Absolutely, and you know, having gone through every town and every village over the past 2 days, preceding the peloton, and those huge crowds, you know, wow, as you went into places and you've got the footage of these huge crowds, seas of people. I didn't recognise where we were going through because it was crowded in people, so I couldn't see the landmarks I was used to looking for. And we've had messages in, I've been getting messages in all day, and my colleagues have as well, from all around the world, from people who've seen the coverage and seen the coverage on the internet as well, and have said, wow, how beautiful was Yorkshire looking.
What they do in France, of course, they give you a kiss. Well done. Well done.
I was 100% sure it would be a success, but like that, it never happens. And Tour de France is very, very, very popular. But what we lived yesterday and today, it's just unbelievable, incredible, amazing, astonishing. I have no English words. Magnifique, formidable, incroyable. Yes, that's true.
What do you think the legacy will be for Yorkshire, though? Do you think it will be that we'll all cycle? Will it be that we can put on a world-class event?
It has already begun, for sure, because there were so many people with their bikes along the road, so it has already begun. There will be the Tour of Yorkshire next year, next May, so we will be back. But what you did for us is, I just say thank you, merci, unforgettable.
It's astonishing, isn't it, that one event can have such an impact, really, on the psyche of a county, because the millions of people who actually turned up to that astounded all of us. But we managed to get ourselves a bit of an insight into this, because what we did was, excuse me, I'll just put it on pause if I may. We managed to get an insight, because Amy and I, my co-presenter, we did a tandem tour in March. In fact, this time last year, we were just starting it. We did a 250-mile tandem tour of Yorkshire to raise money for comic relief, thinking, oh, we'd get 15, 20,000. We raised £175,000. And wherever we went, there were hundreds and at times thousands of people there to cheer us on. And the highlight really was an astonishing one in which we were going up Emily Moor, and the rain and sleet and snow was hitting us, and it was such a hard thing to do. 50 miles an hour wind against us. We managed to get to the top, and we looked at the top in this fog and mist and rain, and there were about 2,000 people there cheering us on, and that made us realise that the Tour de France was going to be very, very special, and it certainly was. And I've been lucky. I've covered sport all around the world. I've done 10 Olympic Games. I've done 6 summers and 4 Winter Olympic Games. So I do know what a sporting event is like, and there's nothing to compare with that in Yorkshire. Absolutely nothing. And that will be one of the moments that I will savour. The other side of it, of course, is the other side of news, and I hope that this is the one that I think it is, and see what you think of this.
Harry.
Well, we can't actually give you much detail about the boy who is being questioned in custody at the moment. What we can tell you is that he's been described as quiet, and we do understand that police are outside his home this evening. Now, as Thomas alluded to very poignantly, there's no way that any school can return to anything like normality after a trauma such as this. The choice of coming to school, though, was left very much down to the pupils. We've heard that 700 of them decided to come into the school. And I was the only journalist invited to go into the school today and witness the experience there of real dedication from the pupils. And I also spoke to a very highly emotional headmaster, Steve Mort.
Anne was first and foremost highly aspirational for all our students, regardless of the background or their ability. She never gave up on pupils, even at times when they may have given up on themselves. She was always the first to look at the strengths of pupils, to find the strengths of pupils, and to encourage them to develop the God-given skills.
As a head teacher, how did you come to terms with the moment it happened? What did you do?
I received the information from a close colleague who brought the news to me, and obviously that came as an enormous shock to us, given social media today, messages I got through to the staff, and so we called a staff briefing at the end of the day where we confirmed that sadly Anne had passed away, and we prayed together as a community because we do draw strength from our faith and the fact that not only are we a learning community, but we're a place of worship and we're a Christian community.
That's how you dealt with the staff. What about the students?
With regards to the students, a decision was made very early actually that we should keep the school open. The school is very much at the centre of the community. We were concerned about children feeling isolated. We wanted to open the doors today. We've got over 750 pupils that have come to the school today because they feel that this is the place they want to be. And I would like to thank those pupils and their parents and carers for making the decision for them to be here. And I think it's a real sign of solidarity amongst the pupils and the staff of the school. Anne Maguire always put the needs of the children first. She was concerned about the welfare and safeguarding, and we are absolutely confident that Anne would have wanted the school to be open today, and that's helped to inform us with the decision that we made.
This school, 24 hours ago, was safe. Is it safe now?
It is. This is a tragic one-off incident. It's unprecedented in the history of Britain. It came as an enormous shock to us, and we couldn't have foreseen the circumstances that transpired yesterday.
You know there are some people now who will use this as a suggestion that metal detectors should be installed in the school. How do you react to that?
It wouldn't be in keeping with the community. We're a very open community, and I think ultimately Anne Maguire herself, if she was asked that question, would strongly oppose any suggestion that we should have metal detectors in this school.
Some of the pupils are about to embark on their most important part of the whole school lives, their GCSEs. Won't it be difficult for them to concentrate after this trauma?
I'm sure it'll be terribly difficult for them, and that's where it's important that the support mechanisms that we've got in place are utilised to the full extent. But one thing that we will draw upon is that colleagues would tell you that Anne Maguire was never happier than on exam results day when she was in school and was celebrating the success of our students, and we will draw upon that, and we will ask our Year 11s to consider that their efforts during the exam season will be a tribute to Mrs Maguire, and I'm sure that our students will respond well to that.
Isn't it, then you deal with something as traumatic as that? I don't know how you would have dealt with it. It's the first time that I had to associate myself with anything quite like that. I mean, I have been a teacher. I was a teacher many, many years ago in a fairly rough school at the time, but never anything like that. How do you cope with covering that story and getting that story right as well? That was one of the biggest challenges that I felt we faced on that particular night.
The death of Anne Maguire in the classroom at Corpus Christi Catholic College in Leeds in April was devastating.
I'll go back to that story in just a second or so, but I think that's one of the lessons that you will learn from being a journalist as you develop your broadcasting skills in the future, is trying to get the tone right, trying to react in the appropriate way to something which nobody could possibly have anticipated, because that was something remarkable, was that. The murder of a teacher in a school just about a year or so ago in front of 20 pupils. They witnessed it. 20 pupils witnessed it. And the effect that that has had on the lives of so many people, not just the tragic family of Anne Maguire, but of the staff at the school, of the pupils at the school, has been incredible, really, and one which I think we should make sure that we don't forget. I'll just move on with this one, just to try and forget this side of it.
The death of Anne Maguire in the classroom at Corpus Christi Catholic College in Leeds in April was devastating. A boy who was 15 at the time who's due to go on trial in November, accused of her murder. You know, few events in all my many years here at Look North have had such a profound impact. But today, it was all about celebrating her life and hearing the stories from those closest to her. Her family were among the hundreds of people at a memorial service held at Leeds Town Hall. For those inside Leeds Town Hall, it was an emotional, personal journey. Outside, for hundreds of others, many of whom probably didn't even know her, it was simply a chance to pay their respects to a special lady. Today, though, was all about celebration. It was a service that captured the spirit of Anne.
One of the things that has struck me in the last few months is how many people who work for the council, who represent the council, knew Anne. And not only did she teach them, she actually inspired them to have public values.
One of the features of this service was the heart and soul singing of the school choir. Uplifting, just a lot.
This guitar-wielding, choir-conducting, Spanish-speaking, prayer-encouraging, vivacious presence in our lives and in school is who we remember today with the most profound affection and gratitude.
Anne had her own views about children. They were steeped in her faith. Monsignor John Wilson shared them with us.
You have to love children. Children are fascinating. Every child is different, and you have to adapt your approach to each one, tuning in with their needs and encouraging them to aspire. Whether she was chasing homework, singing in Spanish, or soothing teenage anxieties, Anne rightly lived up to her accolade as the mother of the school.
Anne would have loved this, Potter's Hand, sung by the choir. Then, this moving tribute from one of her colleagues.
Anne never believed she was in any way special or different from thousands of other teachers. But to colleagues and to generations of Corpus Christi pupils, she will remain very special indeed. She acted justly, she loved tenderly, and she walked humbly with her God. Thank you.
Right at the very end, one of Anne's nephews, who she raised as her own, gave this emotional farewell.
We're here today to say we miss you. We're here to say we love you. But we really, really would like to say thank you. Good night. God bless.
You know, two young people in the service just said to me before I came out towards the end of it that they felt she was with them today. She always was. She always supported them. And you know what? I think they're absolutely right. It was that kind of day. Anne Maguire was certainly there. Actually, because when I was, as you always do when you go out on a story, you negotiate with the producer of the day for a time slot. And I can remember she said to me, give you 2 minutes for that whole service. I thought, no way, I'm going to do more than 2 minutes. Anyway, I came back, and that was about 5 minutes in the end, right at the top. In regional television terms, that's almost like a documentary these days, 5 minutes. But I was insistent that I could put that together personally. You probably realise it was a very personal way of doing that particular story because it got to me. There might be a line crossed at times. I'm quite prepared to discuss this if you think it is. Whether you get too involved in a story, whether you become too emotional in a story. But for me, I was very comfortable with that because it got an incredible audience on the night, massive audience, because people wanted to see that kind of response from everybody involved with Corpus Christi School. Emotional responses are part of what I do. I can remember being taken off a story, the Bradford City story, the Bradford City fire, which is coming up for a very special anniversary later on this year. I was taken off that story because my editor at the time felt I was too close to it. I was too emotional too much involved. Bradford City, I'm a Bradford lad. Bradford City is one of my teams that I support, and obviously it was a very, very difficult time. So there are times when I think that's an appropriate thing to say. So the emotional side of our work is something you mustn't forget, because the other criticism that I feel you can get so often excuse me, is that you can be accused of being unemotional, unaffected, and the word I hate at times, professional. You know what I mean? It's a professional report that doesn't really give any insight into what has actually happened. And that is something I hope that over the years I've managed to avoid doing. So that was the Anne Maguire situation, one which, as you can see, has an anniversary coming up very, very quickly at the end of April, and I'm sure that we'll be doing quite a lot. This was 27th of February 2014.
Well, the man in charge of the Lendal Bridge project is Councillor Dave Merritt. He came to see us to defend the scheme.
If our ambition of actually getting a much better and more reliable bus service works, and we're able to increase frequencies, increase reliability and extend the services over the years, we will actually get a lot more people, hopefully, on the services, less cars on the road, and it should actually ease. Okay. At the moment, it's only 4 minutes, 4 to 4.5 minutes extra in terms of getting from the west side of the city centre to the east side of the city centre.
Sorry, you say how many?
On average, from the Traffic Master data, 4 to 4.5 minutes.
I'm saying rubbish to you because I've tried it. I'm a car owner. I've tried that. It's much more than 4 minutes, and I do not know when you're going. You must be going at midnight.
No, that's the average for the period of the day that the bridge is closed, measured from Micklegate Bar to the hospital,
well,
and,
all right,
and vice versa.
I accept your view on that. A lot of people watching this might not. May I suggest that you go on your bike and go down Lehman Road, watch the potholes, by the way, because there are a lot of those, ask the people who live in those houses about the congestion, go down Bootham and try the congestion down there, and have a go at the inner ring road. How do you answer those, Councillor Merritt?
Well, there has been some redistribution of traffic. The actual traffic figures along Lehman Road are basically the same as they were before, but there's more queuing at the north end in terms of vehicles turning right onto Water End. We are looking at what further measures that we can do to mitigate that. But as I say, I come back to the main point. You know, we are a growing city. Car ownership continues to increase, and over the next 15 years, the best modelling work suggests that we will double to treble congestion in the city. It is absolutely essential that we get a better, more reliable bus service and get more people to use the buses if we are to avoid that.
You have made a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of pounds, fining people, so York City Council must be delighted with the way that's gone.
No, I'm not. We've ended up fining a lot more people than we originally anticipated, and you know, I'm not happy.
Where's the money going? Where's hundreds of thousands?
We have to spend it on highways and transport issues, and we're looking to see
stay in his job very much longer after that. I don't get any satisfaction out of that, but you probably realise that one of the things that I live in York, I know that that particular closure of the bridge caused consternation beyond belief. So I felt comfortable having a real go at him. I wasn't rude to him, but I was challenging. And one of the things that we're told to do all the time now is to hold people to account. Now, some people thought I was too strong with him, that I shouldn't have said rubbish to him, but I happen to know that he was talking through his whatever. But I mean, we are there to hold people to account, which brings us on really to what we're going to be doing now for the election, because that is the next thing that we have to concentrate on. You probably know now that Look North has now got an extended late bulletin. So we now have a 13.5-minute bulletin late at night, 10:27 to 10:40. That means that we are basically going to have an election desk, I would think, quite prominently once the election gets really into gear. And we are now charged with holding people to account. Strangely, I think there is a move away from what you might call the controversial and the confrontational interview now. We're not now going to be challenging people in, if you like, the John Humphreys style or the Jeremy Paxman style. We'll be challenging, but we won't be in the same way. One of the things that people don't like watching TV, apparently, are interruptions. And yet sometimes you've got to interrupt when a councillor or a politician makes a statement. You can't just let them get away with it. And that's one of the things that I again would encourage you to do, is always, when you're doing an interview, depending on the kind of interview that it is, make your interview a challenging one. And you can do that in a number of ways. You can do that by the way that you phrase the question. You don't have to be quite as aggressive as some of the... Jeremy Paxman has been in the past. I mean, I always used to love Jeremy Paxman on Newsnight because of his mannerisms. Do you know what I mean? He could go like this in the middle of an interview, and he could stretch as if to say, that is the most incredible statement that you've ever come across, or I'm so bored with this, here's a bullet of a question. We can't do that anymore now. So that's what you have got to do as journalists. If you join the BBC, if you join colleagues at ITV as well, you're going to be asked, Sky, anybody, you're going to be asked to get the best interview that you can and challenge them in a certain situation. So bear that in mind, please, as something which I think is very important. I'll just show you one more clip, and then if you want, you can have a go at me, because I'd like you to do that and tell me what you think about the way that regional news is going, and obviously be able to talk about that in a very frank way.
Well, one of the organisers of that meeting this afternoon was Mabeen Hussain. What has the backlash been against your community?
I think these are the fears that many people had if this situation wasn't dealt with, and I think the community today showed, that they were scared of the backlash and wanted to deal with this in a positive manner.
Now, the mood in there was an angry mood, it was a passionate mood, but it was also quite positive as well, wasn't it?
It was an angry mood, it was a very passionate mood, because, I've been saying this for time. I think today we've seen the community does not support these such actions, and we want prosecutions and convictions, and the police and the council and social services need to take responsibility for their actions.
But you know as well as I do, Mabeen, that many people are saying that you too need to take responsibility, that maybe someone knew who the perpetrators of these, or some of these appalling crimes were.
Well, we had the community in there, and that was questioned to them, did they know? And as a whole, the community came out and said, we genuinely didn't know, and we wouldn't see the anger, the shock, the frustration within the community if we did know. And this is why, when we do know, have a packed meetings as such in front of the press, and it was all there live and clear. I don't think there's anything else that I need to say apart from what you've seen.
And you know now that the way forward is very, very significant. What would you say to your community to try and keep things calm, because we know that the English Defence League have been around, etc., etc.
The thing is, we understand that far right groups and individuals would like to come and take over this situation and pinpoint numbers. We want our community, look, there is going to be an element of patience. I've had it myself, Islamophobic abuse, racism. We're going to get that. What we're asking is please stay calm. This is an issue that hasn't just stayed locally, but gone national and global. We have the whole of Britain, and nationally, eyes are on our community of Rotherham. We hope we can join with many people in our community to stand against these type of issues and stand together.
And it will have to be that, won't it? You will have to stand together and cooperate.
I think definitely it cannot be an issue where it's just the Pakistani Muslim community coming out, or any other community. I think whether it's going to be the Pakistani Muslim community that leads it. British Muslim Youth has come out today, led today's meeting, and will be moving forward. But we want everybody and all the stakeholders to come together. We want to hold those people into account. The police can't just apologise. Accountability is needed.
Okay, Mabeen Hussain, thank you very much indeed. You've got some idea there of the sense of feeling that exists here in Rotherham after what can only be described as a terrible week.
That was quite a difficult interview to do. I'll tell you why, because what you didn't see in the background was a quite hostile group of people watching this interview very, very carefully to make sure that I didn't step across the mark as well. I think my questions were very carefully worded so that he had to answer questions that were needed to be asked. But you've also got to be careful that you don't put them in a way that is also quite explosive. So that's a kind of full range, and one of the reasons why I say to you it's a remarkable year I've had is because I've had that full complement of stories. The Anne Maguire story, the Rotherham story, which is still going on, and of course I think Mike was saying this morning that 5 Live are leading on that Rotherham story today, because there is a suggestion that the abuse to the young people in Rotherham could be well over 2,000 people, not 1,400. And that is the tip of the iceberg as well. So obviously that's a very, very serious question that we'll be looking at. For me, I love this job. I'm passionate about the BBC. I'm proud to work for the BBC. We do get things wrong from time to time, I absolutely agree. But I cannot urge you enough to try and get a job with this organisation, because it's a great organisation and one which will give you a very full career if you give it your 100%, because that's what you need to do. You've got to give it everything. I have sacrificed quite a lot in my career. I'm always available. If there's a story at the weekend, I don't have a weekend off. I'm the first to ring in. If a story that I see pops up on wires or anything, I ring the office up or my editor and say, do you want me to go and cover it? And that's the way that I have kept my enthusiasm going all the way along the line. So that's my big tip to you. When you go for an interview, be well prepared, know what the programme is you're going for, and be willing, able to give 100% commitment, not just on the days that you're working, but on the days that you're off, because that is the way that you get yourself established. Okay. Questions? Yes.
You were talking about the sort of aggressive nature of interviews. Would you say the likes of Jeremy Gration, are they too aggressive?
There is a school of thought that says that they are. I mean, I don't know how you would ever convince John Humphreys, for example, to change his style. I don't think you can, and nor. I mean, if you go on to the Today programme, you know what you're going to get. You're not going to ask for your recipe of the week, are you? So John Humphreys is John Humphreys. He's got a unique style. What I'm saying is that, generally speaking, there is a move towards us being more, I don't know, more complimentary, but still challenging. It's the way you word your questions. I think that's important. And you can still ask hard questions. You can still ask challenging questions, but you need to think about the way that you do it.
And has that just come from viewers responding?
Yeah. I think there is a sea change in it. I think there's sometimes being a thought that it's become more of a performance than an interview in certain circumstances. I mean, I tried to do an aggressive interview a couple of years ago with a councillor in Kirklees, and it was not very good. I mean, I am fairly honest. When I do a bad interview, I hold my hands up and say that wasn't very good. So I've changed my style. My interview with a councillor, Merritt, from York, was, I suppose, strong, but I wasn't disrespectful to him, other than say rubbish. But I felt fairly certain that I could say that to him. Yes?
How wise do you think it is to be able to edit your own footage? Because obviously I can out with your flow, so who does the editor how important do you think it is to be able to produce full footage quickly?
Oh, absolutely. For me, it's my ever since I've been working at Look North, I've been a presenter, yes, but I've also been a reporter, and I do my own editing. Not physically. I could not edit anything, I'll be honest with you. I was just marvelling at was it Hayley this morning, interviewed me, put it on the web. She was using an iPhone. How do you do that? I don't even know how to switch an iPhone on at times, but so I can't do anything like that. But I like to be there to say in, out, I want that, and I do. I'm fairly strong about that. And especially the Anne Maguire thing, which was so important to me. But what we didn't show actually at the end of the Anne Maguire thing, right at the very end of it, we had a montage of images of her and quotes from pupils and staff, and I put it to a Ellie Goulding song. I didn't know the Ellie Goulding song, but my wife did, and she said this is absolutely appropriate, and the whole newsroom was in tears, and I was as well. It just hit the chord right. It's an emotional response, but we have to be able to cut our own pieces, because then you're responsible for it and you can't blame anybody else. Insist on that if you can.
You're talking about people's accounts, David Cameron was on the blog a couple of weeks ago and asked some really good questions about
Yeah.
And I was in the makeup room, and his staff...
You don't need makeup.
His makeup. His staffers and his team were quite, I wouldn't say verbally angry, but quite visibly not pleased with live question.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, I don't worry about that. I mean, it wasn't. We didn't make up this graphic. We showed a graphic. I can't remember. You may remember what it was. I think we said 2012, £10 million to welcome to Yorkshire. 2014, 0. That's what we said. That was a graphic. And to be fair to Cameron, where I think we did well on that particular one was because he stayed on to be interviewed like that. And we also went back to, if you remember, about Rotherham as well. So he was prepared to give us a 7-minute slug, rather than, as some of them do, just 7 minutes, one go, and that's it. He stayed on so we could bring in different ideas, and that's why it worked. I don't have a problem with that. If we'd have got the facts wrong, I would have a problem with it. But he's a Prime Minister, he's wanting people to vote for. The only thing we have to do is to make sure we do exactly the same with Mr Miliband and Mr Clegg and all the others who will be desperate to get on regional news, because when you think about it, it's just about the only vehicle they've got now, local radio and regional news. So they want to be on Calendar, they want to be on Look North, they want to put their points across. And there's going to be a lot of that in the next 6 weeks, I can tell you. So, no, I'm not comfortable about it. If we've rattled this cage, tough. Yes?
A bit of a lighter question for you. Just how difficult was it cycling the Yorkshire Park?
Oh, God, it killed me. I can't tell you how much it took out of me. I'm fairly fit. I had a very serious operation just over 2 years ago when I had a big part of my stomach removed. So I've always wanted to make sure to keep fit. I ran the York Marathon, not last year, the year before, and that killed me as well. But this one took it out of me. The idea of the tandem tour was actually to establish my co-presenter, Amy, who had just started. We thought it was a great way of getting around the region. But I got a bad back, I trapped a nerve in my back, and I could get on the bike, but I couldn't get off it. No, I actually couldn't get off it at the end of the day. And overnight it just got worse and worse. I then got a chest infection, which lasted 3 months. And I thought, why am I doing this? What am I doing? Then my wife was going ballistic with me about doing stupid things, never saying no. But yet, £175,000, a record for regional TV. It worked, and you know, comic relief or whatever it was, sports relief, wasn't it? It was just a wonderful, wonderful end result. The next thing they've got me doing, and this is, and I tell you what, this is really pissed me off. On Wednesday this week, Amy, my co-presenter, said, "Oh, we'll do something for comic relief." I said, "Yeah, go, do what you want." So she said, "Well, I've committed us to doing a dance routine at the Alhambra in Anything Goes." I said, "Amy, I cannot put one foot in front of another at times." Anyway, she said, "Well, we've got a 3-hour rehearsal on Wednesday morning, and then we're going to go live, as it were, on the Friday night performance of Anything Goes in Bradford." I tell you what, that would be worth missing. That would be terrible with that one. But that's what you do, and you do it, and we'll have a bit of a laugh. But Amy, of course, she's a good dancer and everything. She's you know, she's quite sort of switched on chick. I'm definitely not. Yeah.
Would you say it's quite hard to stay politically unbiased when interviewing like that?
Yeah, I think sometimes it probably is. If you absolutely know that what that person is saying is absolutely wrong, then maybe it is. But we did balance it accordingly the night after. You know, it is, balance has to come in. It doesn't have to come at that particular moment. It can come over a period of time. So that didn't worry me. But that was an issue that I knew about, and I knew it inside out, because I'd tried it. You know, I'd tried the car, and he talked about it being 4 minutes. It was actually 1 hour 6 minutes at the peak times during the day. So I was on fairly solid ground there, and I could hear the whole of York screaming at the television at the time. So, but you've got to be careful with this, and certainly when it comes now to the political interviews that we're about to do with all of the big leaders, you know, we've given Cameron a hardish time. We'll have to do the same to Ed Miliband and Nicholas Clegg, presumably, and Nigel Farage as well when he comes up. So I think my editor is there and other people are there to monitor us. We had a meeting on Friday, actually, where we had some experts about politics coming up to tell us what the pitfalls are and what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing. And they were all saying that this election is almost certain to be the nastiest election of them all, because there's not much between them, is there? I wonder if I asked people on the street if they knew the difference between Labour policy on NHS and Conservative policy on NHS. Would they actually know the difference? One might say, well, one wants to put more money in, one wants to put less money in. But do they actually know what the issues are on other subjects like education? I'm not so sure they do, because I think they're very close on many of them. But we shall see. Yeah.
You've said yourself that you never say enough to a story, but has there been a story that's been like that emotionally driven and you step back yourself and thought, no?
Yeah. Probably not, actually, but I've been close to it. I think when friends are involved, yes. There was one that a friend of mine was involved in the story and died, and I said to my editor, I can't cover that. That would be too much for me, so I didn't do that. But that was a fairly unusual circumstance. I think the story that affected me most was probably the Anne Maguire story, because I cannot countenance that happening in front of children. You know, imagine that happening, and it was a horrific attack as well. So, and I've got utmost admiration for the school and everybody working there now, and the children to getting over that, and the family of Maguire's as well. Isn't it? Very difficult, that. Yeah.
Alex Thompson, Chief Correspondent for Channel 4. You wrote in an article saying people should get into journalism because of anger, because they want to change something. To what degree would you say anger has fueled your...
No, I don't think it has. No, not in my case. If I'm unusual, then I'd admit that. I wouldn't say it's so much anger as passion. You can take a political stance with a special newspaper you wanted to. If you wanted to have that angle, maybe the Daily Mail or whatever, you might think that that's the right place for you to go if you wanted to take a particular view. But I don't think anger has ever motivated me to that extent. But passion has. Passion to be a broadcaster, passion to cover events of the region. I love Yorkshire. You know, I don't have an anger for Yorkshire, I have a love for Yorkshire. And I want to promote this county as well as I can. Which is one of the reasons why I've never been too worried about going to work for Network, because I've always been happy here in Yorkshire. And I've been lucky enough to work for Network as well on major events. So anger, no, but I can understand where that's coming from as well. Yeah.
My question was kind of following on from the Anne Maguire story and how you did keep your emotions in check, because even just watching it then, that made me feel a bit teary. How do you...
Yeah, well, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. I think one of the things that people have always said to me about my broadcasting is that I've never really sat on the fence. When something has happened emotional, I tend to show it. Whether that's a strength or a weakness, I don't know. I believe it's my strength, really, because I actually feel what's going on. That little piece to camera that I did outside the memorial service, I've just talked to a couple of children about it. Hugh Edwards, actually, the BBC newsreader, commented to me after he watched the programme go out and said, I really was touched by that, because that was you in the community, and that's something that perhaps only you could get away with. I'd rather be that much involved and on the edge, not over the edge, but on the edge, than distant and just doing a reporting job. It's not me, that. Yeah.
Do you have any regrets over your career?
Oh, regrets? No, I don't think I have, really. I mean, I had I had talking about network, when I did sport, an awful lot of sport, I don't tend to do that much now. I don't watch York City play, so someone's got to do it, I suppose. I was very close to getting a job on Sports Night, which used to be the midweek Wednesday programme. And the guy who got it was a guy called Steve Ryder. And apparently I was second to it. And when I asked the head of sport at the time why I didn't get the job, I mean, the fact that Steve Ryder was very, very good at it, there's no problem with that. He said, you tended to drop your H's, I noticed. And I thought, yeah, well, I do. I'm from Yorkshire, so I do drop my H's. And I thought, at that point, I nearly said to him, well, you can stuff your job up your heart. But I didn't in the end. But, I mean, I suppose that was the only time when I felt that, you know, it was I was a bit frustrated, but I've been lucky. You know, I've had so many great, I've been to World Cups, I've done Open Championships, I've worked at Wimbledon, I was in London for the 2012 after my illness. I never thought I'd get there, but I got there, got a gig on that. I think you were on that as well, weren't you? So I will tell you all about that, I'm sure, a bit later on. That wasn't that great, London. Ah, fantastic. It was a great one. So, no, not really, not really. I'm very happy being a regional presenter. Really happy to be a part of this because, you know, I think it's a very valuable job that we do, and I'll hang on for a little bit longer yet. Yeah.
What made you want to go into journalism from being a teacher?
I always wanted to. Apparently, when I was a young lad, my mum used to say when I was playing cricket in the backyard, I was always commentating. So I did want to do sport, and of course I specialised in sport initially. I was sports editor of Radio Leeds in the early days, but then I moved to Look North, and I had to do sport and news. And obviously, news now is far more important to me than sport. I only do bits and bats of sport when there's a bigger match at Wembley. I tend to go down there. But I think it was just that's what motivated me really. Yeah. Kill for my job. Well, let me tell you how I got into it, and it will. I've already mentioned this to Hayley, I think, on the interview that I did with her. You need to find a contact wherever you're going to have a job. That's your first thing, and then you nurture that contact. I'm not talking about giving favours here by this, definitely not. You nurture that contact and keep in touch with them, and you have to pester them in a responsible way. Because when I was trying to get into Radio Leeds, I was a teacher, and a lot of people thought, well, as a teacher, you can't possibly have the journalistic skills to become a broadcaster or a journalistic broadcaster. But I said, give me a chance, and I got an opportunity. I got a freak opportunity. I was doing a football match for Radio Leeds. I think it was 1976 or something like that, and you might remember this, Mike. Kirgate Market Fire. Do you sort of remember it? It's a long time ago. That started at 6 o'clock on that night. And I was about the only one left. And I suddenly was told, right, you're presenting this programme about the Kirgate Market Fire. And we got people on the air talking about their memories of it. And that was the first time that I gave an indication that I could do journalism as opposed to just reporting on a football match. But I never left them after that. I said, right, I've done it. You know what I can do. Will you give me another chance? Come in for a week's work. Do it for nothing. Just make sure that you come in and pester the people and stick at it. Because I'll tell you this, they won't come to you for a job unless you are exceptional. They won't come to you. You have to go to them. And when you get that chance, really show them you're different. That's what they're looking for. Somebody who's different, with different ideas. Not talking about wearing crazy hairstyle. I'm just talking about being different in your personality, different in the way that you actually do a piece to camera. You can do that, you know. You can hold, if you stand in front of that and, you know, that was it, and that back to the studio. We can all do that, but I'm quite lively. I use my hands all the time and jump up and down like a bean when it's appropriate to do that. Make sure you've got your own style as well. Turn of phrase, anything like that, that distinguishes you from the rest, because you need to do that. Good luck. Good luck.
Final question?
Yes.
It's been a really big year for you this past year. What does this next year hold? Obviously you've got the elections, but have you got anything else coming up that you're aware of that might make it as big as
I can't. I don't think I can match this year, I'm afraid. I think it's probably as far as I can get. I think there's probably one of the great joys that I like about Look North is that whenever there is a big story, we usually go out on it. You know, we're usually reporting live, and you can guarantee that this patch, as you I'm sure will know from your previous experience, this patch is full of news, isn't it? You know, it's just full of news. So when we get a story here, it's always on the 6 o'clock news, almost inevitably. So I just hope that that will keep on going. I've got a bit of a plan, I think, for something that I want to do as I approach my 65th, which is not far away now, which I'm going to discuss with the editor fairly soon, see if he's up for it. But I'm not planning to row the Atlantic single-handed or anything like that, because I think that would lead me into a lot of trouble. Not to mention the fact I'd go the wrong way anyway. Thank you very much.
Harry Gration.